Have you ever looked at the world, at conflicts that seem to rage on for generations, and wondered, why? Why does it feel like some rivalries are etched so deeply into the fabric of history that they defy easy explanation? Today, we're diving into a question that has puzzled humanity for centuries: the persistent, heart-wrenching discord that often flares up in regions with incredibly ancient shared roots. What if I told you that to truly grasp the complexities of some of today's most enduring conflicts, we need to journey back not just decades or even centuries, but millennia? We're about to explore foundational stories, ancestral narratives that countless people believe hold the very blueprint for these age-old tensions. Imagine uncovering a hidden key, a narrative so powerful that it's said to not only explain the origin of these rifts, but also to offer profound insights into the elusive dream of reconciliation. This isn't just a history lesson, it's an exploration into the very soul of human identity, legacy, and the enduring hope for peace. Stick around, because what you're about to discover might just change the way you see these conflicts forever. You absolutely don't want to miss this deep dive. At the heart of these enduring narratives lie the figures of two brothers, sons of a revered ancestral patriarch. These aren't just characters in ancient texts. For vast communities, they represent the symbolic forefathers of distinct peoples, each with a unique destiny. One brother, according to these traditions, became the progenitor of a people who would later be closely associated with a particular spiritual heritage and a promised land. The other brother, through his own lineage, is seen as the ancestor of numerous nomadic and settled communities across vast desert regions, from whom other significant spiritual traditions would later emerge. The fascinating and often tragic element is that these ancient accounts describe a conflict between these very brothers thousands of years ago, a dispute over birthright, blessings, and belonging that seems to mirror, with astonishing clarity, the divisions we witness in the modern world. It's as if the struggles of these foundational figures cast long shadows, their personal dilemmas echoing through the generations, shaping identities, grievances, and aspirations. Many believe that the lives of these patriarchs are more than just historical events. They are seen as symbolic foreshadowings, patterns that repeat in the lives of their descendants. This idea that the deeds of the fathers are prophetic signs for their children is a powerful lens through which many attempt to understand the intricate dance of history and destiny in these lands. The story often begins with a profound spiritual promise made to the patriarch, an assurance of numerous descendants of becoming a great nation through whom blessings would flow to many peoples on earth. However, a significant human challenge presented itself. The patriarch's beloved wife was unable to conceive. In the cultural context of that ancient era, a woman's inability to bear children was a source of deep personal sorrow and societal pressure, often perceived as a mark of incompleteness. As years turned into decades, the promise of an heir seemed increasingly distant, perhaps even impossible. It was in this atmosphere of longing and fading hope that a solution, rooted in the customs of the time, was proposed. The patriarch's wife, in an act of profound selflessness or perhaps deep despair, suggested that her husband have a child with her handmaiden. This was not an uncommon practice in that era, a way to ensure the continuation of a lineage when direct biological succession seemed blocked. And so, a son was born from this union, a child who, for a significant period, was the patriarch's only son, his firstborn, the apparent heir to all his hopes and the divine promises. Imagine the relief, the joy, the years spent nurturing this child, seeing in him the future of a mighty people. This son would, according to these traditions, become a central figure in the heritage of Arab peoples and the spiritual traditions that would later flourish among them. For 13 long years, this firstborn son was the center of his father's world. However, the ancient narratives tell of a dramatic turn. Against all odds and expectations, the patriarch's first wife, now well beyond the age of childbearing, miraculously conceived and bore a son. This new arrival, whose name itself is often linked to laughter, perhaps the laughter of initial disbelief, later transformed into joy, fundamentally altered the family dynamic and, according to these stories, the course of history. The birth of this second son, while a moment of incredible joy for his parents, ignited simmering tensions. A pivotal moment of conflict is often described during a celebration for the younger child. The older brother was seen engaging in behavior that was interpreted by the younger brother's mother as mockery, a challenge to her son's legitimacy and status as the true heir of the primary promise. Whether it was youthful play misunderstood or a genuine assertion of precedence, the reaction was swift and severe. The patriarch's wife demanded the expulsion of the handmaiden and her son, declaring that the son of the handmaiden would not share in the inheritance with her own son. This demand placed the patriarch in an agonizing position, torn between his love for both his sons and the strong will of his wife, who believed she was protecting the sanctity of the original divine promise. The ancient texts describe his deep distress. Ultimately, with assurances of protection and greatness for his elder son as well, he made the painful decision. The handmaiden and her young son were sent away into the wilderness with provisions. This physical separation marked the beginning of a profound spiritual and historical divergence, a wound that many believe continues to resonate. For many who identify with the lineage of the expelled son, this story of displacement, of a promise seemingly snatched away, is a foundational narrative of their own identity and historical grievances, sometimes seeing parallels in later events of uprooting and loss. A crucial element in understanding these ancient narratives is the concept of a special binding commitment or covenant, a unique relationship and a set of promises understood to be divinely ordained. According to one stream of these traditions, while both sons received blessings and promises of greatness, this specific, enduring spiritual covenant was established exclusively through the younger son, the child of the miraculous birth. This wasn't based on human merit or the order of birth, but on a choice described as being beyond human plans or efforts, tied to the miraculous rather than the humanly contrived. This son's lineage was to be the conduit for a particular spiritual inheritance. However, the elder son, the firstborn, was far from forgotten or abandoned. The narratives are clear that he too received powerful blessings. Promises of becoming a great nation, of multiplying exceedingly, of fathering leaders and peoples who would wield significant influence. And indeed, many see the historical rise of vast empires, rich cultures, and global influence among the peoples traditionally associated with his lineage as the fulfillment of these very promises. The divergence lies in the nature of these blessings. One was a blessing of a specific spiritual covenant and a unique role in a sacred history. The other was a blessing of worldly greatness, resilience, and vast progeny. This concept of a chosen people or a covenant people has been a central pillar of identity for those who trace their spiritual ancestry to the younger son. It has been a source of immense strength and survival through millennia of hardship, but it must be acknowledged, it has also been a point of contention and misunderstanding with a world that often struggles with or rejects such claims of uniqueness. The key here is that both sons in these foundational stories are recipients of profound blessings, though their paths and the nature of their promised legacies differ significantly. The struggle for inheritance and legitimacy didn't just play out in the ancient desert encampments, it continued symbolically in the sacred texts and traditions that evolved from these foundational stories. A key point of divergence, for instance, lies in the interpretation of the patriarch's ultimate test of faith, the willingness to sacrifice his son. While one set of traditions firmly identifies the younger son as the one involved in this profound act, sealing his line's covenantal status, another equally significant body of tradition, central to a vast global faith, maintains that it was the elder son who was the subject of this ultimate trial. This isn't a minor discrepancy. By identifying the elder son as the protagonist in this supreme act of devotion, this tradition shifts the spiritual inheritance and primary significance through his lineage, from which its own central prophetic figure is said to descend. This battle of the narratives has had very real and often tragic consequences, particularly when it comes to shared sacred sites. Perhaps nowhere is this more palpable than in the ancient city of Jerusalem. a location of supreme sanctity for one group, the site of their ancient temples and the very navel of their spiritual world, is, in the exact same physical space, home to some of the most revered mosques of another major faith. It's like witnessing one layer of history and sacred meaning physically built upon or intertwined with another. Consider the famed foundation stone located beneath a magnificent golden domed shrine. For one tradition, this rock is the spiritual fulcrum of creation, the place of Adam's formation, the site of the patriarch's near sacrifice, of the younger son in their telling, and the heart of their ancient temples. For another tradition, this very same stone is the sacred spot from which their most revered prophet ascended to the heavens during a miraculous night journey. The same physical place, the same rock, yet imbued with two distinct, powerful, and sometimes conflicting sacred histories. Even the famous Western Wall, a place of deep prayer and mourning for one group as the closest accessible point to their ancient holy site, is known to another as the Burak Wall, where their prophet tethered his celestial steed. Control over these sites thus becomes more than a territorial dispute. It's a symbolic struggle for the validation of one's own sacred history, a testament to the enduring power of these ancient stories, and the profound question of whose narrative ultimately defines these holy places. Despite the millennia of conflict, separation, and competing claims that seem to flow from these ancient sibling rivalries, the foundational narratives themselves offer a surprising and often overlooked scene of potential reconciliation. When the great patriarch eventually passes away, the texts record a crucial detail. His sons buried him. After what could have been decades of separation and unspoken grievances, the two brothers, the symbolic heads of these diverging destinies, come together. In that moment of shared loss, standing before the grave of their common father, they are simply two sons mourning. Some traditions place great significance on the order in which their names are mentioned in this passage, suggesting that the elder son, by allowing the younger covenant-bearing son to be named first, made a profound gesture of acceptance and peace. This act is often interpreted as a sign for the children, a prophetic indication that despite everything, reconciliation is not only possible, but perhaps even preordained. It underscores that both remained sons of their father, both were part of a larger, albeit complex family story, and both were recipients of divine care and blessing. This ancient hope for reconciliation, however faint it may sometimes seem, has found modern echoes. In recent times, amidst ongoing political complexities, something remarkable occurred. Several nations, identifying with the lineage of the elder brother, made historic decisions to normalize relations and sign peace agreements with the state, largely identified with the lineage of the younger brother. The name chosen for these treaties is profoundly telling: the Abraham Accords. For the first time in many decades, modern diplomacy deliberately invoked the name of the common father, a public acknowledgement that, despite vast theological, historical, and political differences, the origin point, the shared ancestor, remains a powerful symbol of potential unity. It was a conscious step, at least symbolically, towards meeting at that common father's tomb. Beyond political accords and historical interpretations, many spiritual paths, drawing from universal principles of awareness, discipline, morality, and reflection, speak of an even deeper form of reconciliation, one that begins within the human heart and spirit. These traditions propose that the divisions and conflicts that plague humanity, including those that seem rooted in ancient ancestral lines, can ultimately be transcended through a profound inner transformation. This isn't about one side winning or another losing in the historical or theological debate, but about individuals from all backgrounds discovering a shared spiritual identity that rises above earthly distinctions. The core idea is the cultivation of a new humanity or a universal family, where ancestral heritage or group affiliation becomes secondary to a more encompassing sense of interconnectedness and shared spiritual purpose. It's about consciously working to dismantle the walls of hostility, not just those that exist between nations or communities, but the ones built within our own minds and hearts, walls of prejudice, fear, and misunderstanding. This path often emphasizes radical compassion, deep listening, and the challenging spiritual discipline of extending goodwill and understanding even towards those perceived as other or adversary. It's a call to dissolve enmity at its very root by fostering empathy and recognizing the inherent dignity in all. Some envision this ultimate peace and unity as a gradual unfolding, manifesting in communities of diverse backgrounds who, despite the conflicts swirling around them, manage to live in mutual respect and even profound spiritual fellowship. Others anticipate a future era of more widespread harmony, perhaps brought about by a collective spiritual awakening or a heightened global consciousness that recognizes our shared destiny. This aspiration for a world where, as some ancient prophetic visions describe, they shall not hurt or destroy, and where unity prevails, is a powerful undercurrent in many wisdom traditions. It suggests that the path out of the desert of hostility and towards that metaphorical unity at the Father's tomb ultimately lies in cultivating those universal virtues that connect us all as human beings seeking meaning, purpose, and peace.